You ever visit a website and it just feels zippy, like everything happens instantly, but then you go to another one and it just drags, even though you know your internet connection is perfectly fine? Well, today we're going to dig into the secrets of making web apps, especially in React and Next.js, that don't just load fast, they feel fast. So let's start right there with that big question. Why do some apps feel so sluggish, even when you've got a super fast connection? It's a fantastic question because it gets right to the heart of a huge misconception that web performance is all about raw download speed. It's really not. You see, the real secret is to think of performance less like a drag race and more like a symphony. It's this beautiful orchestration of getting the right resources to the right place at the right time. It's about downloading fewer bytes, sure, but also about doing less work, prioritizing what the user sees first, keeping that main thread free, and using caching like a total pro. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, the pipes and caches that your data travels on. Then we'll get into how to basically give the browser a to-do list so it knows what's important. After that, we'll look at the browser's assembly line, tame those wild third-party scripts, and finally, wrap it all up with what I call the instant app mindset. All right, first things first, the foundation. You just can't build a fast application on top of slow infrastructure. So let's talk about building some data superhighways. So in the old days, browsers would open one connection profile, super inefficient. Then came HTTP SOS 2, which is kind of like upgrading a single lane road to a multi-lane highway. You can send a bunch of requests at once over a single connection. And now we have HTTP/3, which is like a maglev train. It's even faster with lower latency and it handles spotty connections, like on your phone, way better. And you know what the best part is? If you're using a modern platform like Vercel or Cloudflare, you're probably already getting all these benefits for free. The next piece of our foundation is the CDN, or Content Delivery Network. Just think of it like this. Instead of having one big warehouse for your website's assets in, say, Virginia, a CDN gives you a whole network of mini warehouses all over the world. So when a user in Tokyo visits your site, they get the files from a server in Tokyo, not Virginia. This is huge. It slashes delivery time and makes your app feel way more responsive. And of course, we have to talk about caching. But not all caching is the same. For your static stuff, CSS, JavaScript, logos that never change, you can tell the browser, hey, cache this for a year and don't ask me about it again. But for dynamic API data, you can use these really clever strategies like stale while revalidate. This is so cool. It shows the user the old cache data instantly, so the page loads, while it goes and fetches the fresh data in the background. It's the best of both worlds. Okay, so we've got our superhighway built. The data is flowing. Now it's time to put on our traffic controller hat and start directing things. We need to tell the browser what's important, and just as critically, when. We've got three main tools for this. Prefetch is a gentle hint. It's like telling the browser, hey, when you have a spare second, you might want to go grab the assets for this other page because the user will probably click there next. Preload is much more demanding. It says, stop what you're doing, I need this resource for this page right now. And pre-connect is like making a reservation. You tell the browser to go shake hands with another server, like Google Fonts, so that when you actually need a font, the connection is already warmed up and ready to go. And here's a super practical example. Let's say you have a specific font that's used in your main headline, the first thing people see. You absolutely want to preload it. This one little line of code makes sure that font gets downloaded with high priority, which helps you avoid that super annoying flash of unstyled text where the wrong font shows up for a split second. The key takeaway here is that the browser has a limited priority budget. You can't just mark everything as important, because if everything's a priority, then nothing is. You have to be strategic. The HTML, the critical CSS for what's visible, your main font, that big hero image, those get high priority. Everything else, your analytics, little chat widget, ads, all that stuff can wait. All right, so our resources are arriving in the right order. Awesome. Now let's look at how the browser actually puts the page together, the assembly line, and where things can get seriously jammed up. This right here is a classic performance killer, the request waterfall. It's a chain reaction. The browser has to download the HTML before it even knows it needs to get styles.css, and it has to download the CSS before it knows it needs font.waf too. It's this domino effect of delays, and a huge part of our job is to find ways to flatten this waterfall out. And the other major traffic jam happens on the browser's main thread. This thing is a workhorse. It does everything from parsing HTML to running your JavaScript. If you give it a giant JS file to process, it's like a car accident on a one-lane bridge. Nothing else can happen. The UI freezes, it's bad. So we fight this. We split our code into smaller bundles, we move logic to the server with things like server components, and we can even offload really heavy calculations to a separate thread using web workers. And modern frameworks like Next.js give us amazing tools to help with this. I mean, look at this. This one line of code fetches data on the server and then caches it for 60 seconds. This means the client doesn't have to make that API call at all for the next minute. That's fewer network requests, less data to download, and a way faster experience for your user. It's a game changer. Okay, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Let's be honest. It's often the single biggest drag on performance in modern web apps, third-party scripts. And really, I can't say this enough. That analytics script from marketing, that customer support chat widget, that A/B testing tool, they all inject code onto your site that you don't control. And they can have a massive, and I mean massive, negative impact on your load times and responsiveness. But thankfully, we can tame them. The Next.js script component is just a fantastic tool for this. By adding this one little attribute, strategy equals lazy onload, you're basically telling Next.js, hey, don't even think about loading this script until the page is fully loaded and interactive. It's such a simple way to take back control of your performance. Okay, let's pull all these threads together now, because achieving great performance isn't about flipping a switch. It's not a one-time fix. It's a mindset. It's a continuous process of measuring, tweaking, and improving. And you can't improve what you don't measure, right? So this is your toolkit. Tools like Lighthouse and web page tests are amazing for testing in a controlled lab environment. But you absolutely have to pair that with real user monitoring or RUM tools. These tools like Datadog or Sentry tell you how your actual users are experiencing your site out in the wild, on their devices and their networks. That's the ground truth. So this is the mindset, this is the checklist you should have in your head. Load fewer resources. Load them in parallel whenever possible. Cache everything you can as aggressively as you can. Use modern protocols. Prefetch with purpose. And for the love of all that is holy, avoid blocking the main thread. This is how you build apps that feel instant. And that really leaves us with one final crucial question. It's so easy to get obsessed with metrics and scores, and you should track them. But the real goal, the ultimate goal, is all about human perception. So after all the optimization, you have to ask yourself, you've made your app technically fast, but have you made it feel instant? Thanks for tuning in.